Most people believe they are slow learners. They think they lack intelligence. They think they don't have talent. They think others were simply born with something they never had. But this belief is not only false, it is damaging. Centuries ago, Japanese masters understood something modern education rarely teaches. Learning speed has very little to do with intelligence and everything to do with the state of the mind while learning. The problem is not that people can't learn. The problem is that their minds are never prepared to receive knowledge. Think about how most people try to learn today. They rush, they multitask, they consume information while distracted, tired, emotionally overloaded, or impatient. Their attention is fractured before learning even begins, and yet they expect deep understanding to emerge from that chaos. It never does. The Japanese saw learning not as an act of accumulation, but as an act of alignment. Before knowledge could enter, the mind had to be settled. Before skill could grow, attention had to be disciplined. Speed was not created by force. It emerged naturally from clarity. This is why ancient Japanese learning methods often appear slow from the outside. Sitting quietly, repeating simple actions, observing before acting. To the modern eye, it looks inefficient, but in reality, it removes the very obstacles that slow learning down. Distraction is one of them. Emotional agitation is another. The need to rush toward results is perhaps the most destructive of all. The Japanese masters understood that a restless mind does not absorb, it resists. When the mind is tense, impatient, or anxious to perform, it creates friction. That friction blocks understanding. Learning becomes exhausting, shallow, and forgettable. This is why many people read books and remember nothing, watch courses and apply nothing, practice skills and feel stuck for years. Their minds are never fully present. They are thinking about results, judgment, comparison, or failure while trying to learn. In Japanese philosophy, this is considered a fundamental error. True learning begins when the mind stops interfering. The ancient method taught that before speed comes stillness, before mastery comes patience, before complexity comes simplicity. A student was never pushed to advance faster than his attention could support. Progress was measured not by how much was consumed, but by how deeply something was understood. This approach produced warriors who could master multiple disciplines, artisans who could refine a single skill for a lifetime, and thinkers whose understanding went far beyond memorization. They were not faster because they rushed. They were faster because nothing inside them slowed the process down. Another critical insight was this: learning is not a mental activity alone. It is a full-body state. When the body is tense, the mind becomes narrow. When the breath is shallow, attention becomes unstable. When posture collapses, focus collapses with it. Japanese learning methods paid close attention to posture, breath, and physical stillness, not for comfort, but for efficiency. A calm body allows the mind to remain open. An open mind absorbs faster. Modern learners are rarely taught this. They sit hunched over screens, breathing shallowly, overstimulated and impatient. Then they wonder why progress feels slow and effort feels heavy. The ancient Japanese method would see this not as a lack of discipline, but as a lack of preparation. Learning was treated as a ritual, not in a mystical sense, but in a practical one. A transition from noise to silence, from movement to stillness, from scattered attention to unified focus. Only then did learning begin. This is why the method feels unfamiliar today. It demands that you slow down before you speed up, that you simplify before you advance, that you remove interference before adding information. And this is also why it works. Because when the mind is no longer distracted, rushed, or emotionally charged, learning accelerates on its own. Understanding deepens, memory strengthens, skills integrate faster. What once felt difficult becomes natural. The ancient Japanese understood something that modern systems completely ignore. Learning does not begin when information is presented. It begins long before that, in the state of the mind that receives it. A mind that is rushed, tense, or emotionally charged cannot learn efficiently, no matter how intelligent the person is. This is why Japanese masters focused first on preparation, not content. Before a student ever touched a book, a weapon, or a tool, his internal state was addressed. Stillness came first, not as relaxation, but as alignment. The goal was to remove internal resistance. When resistance disappears, learning accelerates naturally. One of the most important elements of this preparation was posture. The Japanese believed posture was not cosmetic. It was neurological. A collapsed posture collapses attention. A rigid posture creates tension. The correct posture was upright, grounded, and relaxed. This allowed the body to support focus instead of draining it. When the body is aligned, the mind becomes stable. When the mind is stable, understanding deepens. Breath was treated with equal importance. Shallow breathing creates mental fragmentation. Rapid breathing creates urgency. Japanese masters trained slow, controlled breathing before learning began, not to calm emotions, but to widen awareness. A steady breath signals safety to the nervous system. In that state, the mind becomes receptive instead of defensive. This is one of the reasons learning feels exhausting for many people today. Their bodies are in a state of constant alert. Their minds are preparing for threat, judgment, or failure while trying to learn. The ancient method removed this internal conflict before knowledge was introduced. Another critical principle was the removal of urgency. The Japanese believed urgency poisoned learning. When the mind is trying to reach the end, it cannot fully inhabit the process. Impatience creates blind spots. The student misses details, skips foundations, and builds fragile understanding that collapses under pressure. Japanese masters deliberately slowed the pace at the beginning, not to delay progress but to eliminate future obstacles. A slow start created speed later. When foundations were solid, advancement required less effort. What others struggled to maintain, the disciplined student carried effortlessly. Silence was also essential. Learning did not occur in constant stimulation. Silence was not emptiness, it was space. Space allowed subtle understanding to emerge. In silence, attention sharpened, distractions faded. The mind stopped chasing novelty and began to settle into depth. This is why repetition was so central to the method. Repetition was not mechanical, it was intentional. Each repetition refined awareness. Each return to the same material revealed something new. The goal was not to rush forward, but to see more clearly. Modern learners often misunderstand repetition as inefficiency. The Japanese saw it as acceleration. When something is repeated with full attention, it integrates deeply. Once integrated, it no longer requires conscious effort. Learning becomes embodied instead of remembered. This is when speed truly appears. Another key aspect of preparation was emotional neutrality. The student was taught not to approach learning with excitement or fear. Both were considered disruptive. Excitement leads to rushing. Fear leads to hesitation. The ideal state was calm interest without attachment, curious but unmoved. This emotional neutrality allowed learning to occur without pressure, without the need to perform, without the fear of failure. Knowledge entered the mind cleanly, without distortion. The ancient method also emphasized learning one thing at a time. Divided attention was considered destructive. A student who tried to learn multiple skills simultaneously diluted his focus and slowed progress in all of them. The Japanese believed mastery required narrowing, not expanding, attention. By committing fully to a single skill, the mind learned how to learn. Once this internal structure was built, transferring it to new skills became easy. The first discipline trained the mind. The next disciplines benefited from that training. This is why Japanese warriors, artisans, and scholars often excelled in multiple fields, not because they multitasked, but because they carried the same disciplined attention into everything they touched. As this preparation became habitual, learning stopped feeling heavy. The mind no longer resisted effort. The body no longer tensed against difficulty. Progress became steady and reliable instead of dramatic and inconsistent. The ancient Japanese knew that learning does not fail because people stop studying. It fails because practice is poorly structured. Most people repeat what is comfortable, avoid what exposes weakness, and rush toward complexity before the foundation is stable. Over time, this creates stagnation. Progress slows, motivation fades. The skill feels heavier instead of lighter. The Japanese method was designed to prevent this from happening. At the center of this approach was a simple but radical idea. Learning should become easier the longer you practice, not harder. If effort increases over time, something is wrong. True learning reduces friction. It simplifies action. It removes hesitation. When learning is correct, complexity collapses into clarity. This is why Japanese masters divided practice into deliberate layers. Each layer served a specific purpose, and none were skipped. The first layer was repetition of fundamentals, not casual repetition, but precise repetition. The student returned again and again to the simplest movements, concepts, or forms, even after reaching a level that appeared advanced. This was not regression, it was reinforcement. The Japanese believed that fundamentals are never truly mastered, they are refined. Every return to the basics was an opportunity to remove unnecessary effort, excess movement, excess thought, excess tension. Over time, actions became smaller, cleaner, and more efficient. This is where speed emerged, not from moving faster, but from moving with less waste. The second layer was resistance. Once fundamentals were stable, difficulty was introduced. Deliberately, not through chaos, but through controlled challenge, slightly increased pressure, slightly reduced margin for error, slight discomfort. This forced adaptation without overwhelming the mind. The Japanese were careful here. Too much resistance breaks confidence. Too little creates stagnation. The master adjusted difficulty so the student remained alert, not anxious. This kept learning in a state of sharp attention, where growth happens fastest. The third layer was integration. Skills were not practiced in isolation forever. They were gradually merged into realistic contexts. For warriors, this meant unpredictable movement and timing. For artisans, this meant real materials and conditions. For scholars, it meant application through teaching or problem solving. Integration revealed weaknesses, repetition could not. But because the foundations were strong, these weaknesses were corrected quickly, instead of becoming permanent flaws. Another critical aspect of daily practice was the absence of emotional judgment. The Japanese did not measure progress through praise or disappointment. They observed. Improvement was noted quietly. Mistakes were corrected without drama. Emotional reactions were seen as distractions that distorted feedback. This neutrality allowed the student to see reality clearly. When emotion is removed, learning becomes honest. The student stops defending mistakes and starts correcting them. This alone dramatically accelerates progress. Time was also structured differently. Practice sessions were not endlessly long. Fatigue was considered counterproductive. Short, focused sessions performed consistently were valued more than long, exhausting efforts. Learning was treated as cultivation, not conquest. This is why the method worked so well over years and decades. It respected the limits of attention. It preserved mental energy. It allowed learning to compound instead of reset. Perhaps the most overlooked element of this structure was rest. Rest was not seen as laziness. It was part of learning. During rest, integration occurred. The mind reorganized information. Movement settled. Understanding deepened without conscious effort. Modern learners often skip this phase, flooding the mind with information without allowing consolidation. The Japanese saw this as sabotage. Without rest, learning remains superficial. Over time, this daily structure produced a remarkable result. The students stopped feeling like they were learning. The skill began to feel natural. Responses became immediate. Decisions required less thought. The mind no longer struggled to recall information because the body and awareness carried it automatically. This is the moment the Japanese considered true learning to begin. The ancient Japanese method was never dependent on time, place, or tradition. Swords, scrolls, and temples were only the environment. The real method lived inside the structure of attention, discipline, and patience. That is why it remains powerful today, even in a world filled with speed, noise, and distraction. The first modern application is this: Stop confusing information with learning. Consuming more content will not make you faster. It will make you overwhelmed. The Japanese method teaches the opposite. Choose less, focus deeper. Commit fully to one skill, one subject, one discipline at a time. This alone will place you ahead of most people because very few are willing to narrow their focus. The second application is preparation before learning. Before you study, practice, or train, change your state. Sit upright, slow your breath, remove urgency. Even 2 or 3 minutes of intentional stillness can transform how your mind receives information. When you begin learning from a calm state, understanding settles faster and stays longer. Next comes structure. Do not practice randomly. Return to fundamentals constantly, even when your ego tells you they are too simple. Simplicity is not the enemy of progress. It is the source of speed. Each time you revisit the basics with full attention, you remove friction you didn't know was there. Over time, effort decreases and clarity increases. Then introduce challenge deliberately. Do not seek chaos. Seek controlled difficulty. Push slightly beyond comfort, then stabilize. Growth happens in this narrow space. Too much pressure creates anxiety. Too little creates stagnation. The ancient method lives in balance. Another critical shift is emotional neutrality. Stop measuring your progress through excitement or frustration. These emotions distort perception. Observe instead. What improved? What broke? What needs refinement? When emotion is removed, learning becomes honest and precise. This alone can double your speed. Rest must also be reclaimed. Modern culture treats rest as weakness. The Japanese treated it as integration. After focused practice, step away. Let the mind reorganize. Insight often appears when effort stops. This is not accidental. It is part of the process. Perhaps the most powerful application of this method is learning without waiting for motivation. The Japanese never relied on mood. They relied on structure. Action came first. Feeling followed. When you act consistently, regardless of emotion, discipline replaces willpower, and learning becomes stable instead of fragile. Over time, something profound happens. You stop feeling like you are trying to learn. Understanding comes faster. Skills integrate naturally. Confidence appears quietly without force. You begin to trust the process instead of chasing results. This is why the ancient Japanese method feels almost unfair in the modern world. While others rush, you remain calm. While others consume endlessly, you refine deeply. While others burn out, your progress compounds. The world has changed, but the human mind has not. It still learns best in clarity, stillness, and disciplined attention. Those who understand this do not need to compete. They advance quietly, consistently, and far beyond what looks possible from the outside. The ancient Japanese knew this truth well. Learning faster is not about doing more. It is about removing everything that slows the mind down. And once that interference is gone, speed is no longer something you chase. It becomes something you live. If this way of learning resonated with you, it's because part of you already knows that speed does not come from rushing. It comes from clarity, discipline, and structure. The ancient Japanese understood this deeply. And once you begin to see learning this way, there is no going back. This channel exists for those who want more than motivation, for those who want mastery, for those who are willing to slow down, refine, and build real strength of mind. If you want to continue learning the principles that make discipline effortless, focus unbreakable, and progress inevitable, subscribe to the channel. New videos explore ancient methods, warrior philosophy, and mental systems designed to work in the modern world. Stay here, train the mind, and remember, when interference is removed, progress accelerates on its own.